All right, so welcome back into the live stream today. Hopefully you guys are getting ready for a big Thanksgiving and going to have a lot of fun. You're probably going to talk to all your friends and family at the Thanksgiving table going, man, I've been into crypto all year and I'm killing it. All because of what we're talking about here today, and that is the altcoins that you should be bagging up for not only the bear market, but also as you roll into what may be the bull market set to explode for altcoin season. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back to TechPath. Today we're going to dive into 3 tokens, but also reveal some of the movers in the high cap altcoins that I think a lot of people, and everybody's kind of continued to ask about these in terms of sentiment and amplification scores, kind of do some updates. So we're going to do some charting today. We'll also dive into the rankings so you can kind of see where things are rolling according to what maybe you've been watching on some of the projects that you've been, kind of jumping into here on the show. Everything from, Fantom to MATIC and Solana, all those AVAX tokens you've bagged in there, those kind of things. Anyway, let's get into it today. First, I want to get into Polygon and why MATIC is at least in one of the top 3 tokens that I feel is definitely going to be a long-term hold and definitely going through a bear market at some point. When we do reach that, this is one of those tokens that definitely kind of jumps into the space. There's a couple things that have been happening. Nexo, of course, listed Polygon, sending MATIC prices up. And if you guys haven't maybe checked out Nexo, check out our video first. We had, I can't remember his name, but we had their CEO on quite some time ago. And Nexo essentially is a platform that competes directly with Celsius. Celsius being not an exchange, neither is Nexo. You can transfer your tokens in there and you can earn just ridiculous yields on these things. So think of it as kind of a savings account for your cryptocurrency. Because you can do that now with Polygon on Nexo, it's opened up a whole new market for Polygon and MATIC, and that is mostly Eastern Europe, because Nexo is big in Europe, and of course, if you look at some of their overall density of what they're doing from a company standpoint versus, say, a Celsius who is based here in the U.S., that's a good win for MATIC. So again, regulated digital assets institutions offers MATIC's holders 20% APR, so that's a huge pump for MATIC holders if you are transferring or putting your MATIC into Nexo, which is a big, again, a big deal. So lending initiatives, Polygon is one of the prime chains for mining NFTs and expanding Nexo's offerings into the metaverse. And then it is among the top protocols that obviously successfully onboarded the highest number of users over the past 8 weeks. This is another reason that I am very bullish on MATIC is the amount of people that are moving into the space and actually utilizing the utility of what Polygon has to offer. So a lot of cool stuff there, but don't stop with that. Another thing that is happening is payroll, and this is kind of interesting because this is kind of a derivative of what we're talking about with these tokens, but the reason this is important is because of the projects that eventually will start to push over onto what I think at some point soon, we're going to see a lot more payroll systems moving onto it. So Sublir expanded to Polygon and Binance Smart Chain, which was previously they were running on just Ethereum. So that's a big deal, I think, when you think about just the cost and the amount of savings that you're going to get with Polygon in these kind of scenarios. And don't think that payroll isn't going to go mainstream. There's a lot here going out there. This is another article planned now for when employees are going to be asking and wanting to be paid in Bitcoin. That's the thing I'm getting at here, is that we're going to start seeing, whether it's ADP or Gusto or many of these online payment systems. My question is, when will one of those leap to it? Or will we see more infrastructure companies start to develop and then plug in with these players like a Polygon and like others that would enable payment to employees and handling all the tax side, all those kind of things? Whoever ends up doing that is going to win huge, not only from the blockchain side, but also from the payroll side. So another big deal. And don't think about this just in the sense of payroll. We're also seeing a lot of movement here now on just payment in general, where here's One Republic. They got paid in Bitcoin for a show they did in Vienna. And this was all done through the Strike app. So again, these are more projects that are moving in that direction, and one of the reasons I think Polygon is still a big one. We'll also jump over to Fantom. So Fantom is another one that is really blowing up, and there's a lot of reasons for this, soaring over 21% this week, and it continues to kind of surprise me of the number of people who do not put this in their long-term portfolio hold. I've seen a lot of people trading in and out in my circles and also just within the channel in terms of chat, but Fantom is another lockstep that I would definitely hold on here. Tuesday was a big day in short history on the rise of Fantom, and of course the coin was gaining more than 21% in value mid-afternoon, and the big issue was, and part of this was in conjunction with what was happening on 123 swap, which is kind of a rising star in the swapping game, but Fantom was listed there. So did it really push it? I don't necessarily think just that kind of moved what's happening with Fantom. I think in general, if you look at the ecosystem, it's got tremendous growth. You've got this 123 swap, which has kind of moved into the point where they've brought Fantom on, and then you can kind of see here it represents an encouraged 1-2 punch for Fantom in its bi-weekly operational update on Monday, which was a code update. Fantom said since the launch, its incentive rewards programs for developers, which is a big deal, and its total lock value has risen 600% to 5.1 billion. That is unbelievable, which I think is yet to be priced into Fantom just yet. When people start to realize what that TVL is and why it's so important, this is going to be one of those projects I think that will continue to see some movement. Fantom has also been conceived as a smart contract supporting an obviously alternative to Ethereum, and it utilizes a technology. This is where it's a little bit different, which is called a directed acyclic graph, a DAG, that can be seen as an evolution from the standard blockchain. DAG is basically a ledger that takes the form of a graph with transactions stacked on one another instead of chained together. That's about as simple as I can explain it. But the idea behind a DAG is that it definitely is a play on the technology angle, which is kind of unique and does set Fantom apart from a lot of the other projects that are out there. So when you look at those, and then the obvious one I think that everybody would say today, some people are saying probably right now in the comments or in the chat, you're probably saying, what's number 3? What do you think? Give me some chats here. Let me hear it. But before you do, hit the like button and let me know. But number 3 is Solana. That's an easy win, right? I know that you guys understand I'm a big fan of both Algorand, AVAX, and a handful of other tokens that should be in this list. But if I have to really reposition or rebalance my portfolio, these are some of the tokens that I would be rebalancing too. Now let's talk about rebalancing, because this is something we're nearing the end of the year, and I talk about this as a strategy that you should be utilizing. And some people kind of get this, but some people kind of look at it as I'm never selling, and that's okay too. Nothing wrong with that. I don't want to push anybody into that. Remember, these are market movers. Market movers are real simple. We'll bring all this cool stuff to you. We'll give you some news, and we'll give you some data, and hopefully it's going to push you in the right direction for your own research and getting you in the right direction. But when it comes to rebalancing, the idea is pretty simple. You want to take some of your underperforming projects, reallocate those into projects that you feel are either on the move, or maybe you want to rebalance into a whole new category class. Maybe it's metaverse, maybe it's gaming, or you want to look at a long-term hold. Now, I said a lot of things there. There's a lot of different strategies that you can use with that approach. Do it with maybe 20% of your portfolio, meaning your crypto portfolio. Take a look at where your underperformers are. Even if they're winning, maybe it is a good time, if they're really slow, to take a look at that project and say, hey, listen, some of these projects are, one, maybe getting a lot of competition, so they've matured out a little bit, or two, maybe there's something that is happening in the technology phase that is happening in another project that is causing that project to fly. In gaming, you'll see a lot of that. Could definitely happen. Metaverse definitely is happening because we're seeing that in the very early stages. Just as a reminder, when you're investing in any of those kinds of projects, I'll tell you, for me, these are meaning I'm talking about gaming and metaverse. These are super high risk, very, very risky. Don't do it. Don't invest in them unless you are ready for high risk and you've done a ton of homework. Hopefully we've given you a little bit of that here on the show to get you kind of going in that direction. But back to the top 3 and also to some of the others that we're going to rank for you, because some of these are probably in your bags right now. This might be a way for you to take a look at these projects and maybe do an assessment to try to jump in on a project or double down on a project that might be a better performance during the rest of this bull run. So let's get over to MATIC's trading view chart, and we'll kind of look at where sentiment has been holding on MATIC. And again, the way our sentiment, if you're new to the channel, our analysis tool is different than anything out there on YouTube and even in quant when you look at investing in traditional stocks, bonds, etc. Because we've been building a tool set for about 7-8 years that has been built around sentiment and a thing we call amplification, which is an algorithm that looks at basically conversations. And as you know, social media is the big driving force behind cryptocurrency. And social is one of the key things that you can map against price action. And I know a lot of people will argue price action and or maybe stock to flow models, and you look at traditional technical analysis. All of those are great. We don't knock on any of those. I think all those tools have their place. What we look at though is the originating tool set in a highly volatile platform or space like crypto, and social being the key plug in all of this. That's why sentiment and amplification make so much sense. So when you look at MATIC, and this is a good example, I mean, we're doing a little humble brag here, but when we scored this back in September, this was the 21st of September, we had pulled this one, 73.92 was our sentiment score. We pulled a 74.11 on amplification. That's called a flip. And what I mean by that is when amplification is outperforming sentiment, it usually means we're going to see good action, meaning we're going to see either a parabolic move, depending on what that separation is, or we're going to see an uptrend. All of this was mapped in, and you can go back and check our videos on MATIC. This is exactly what we showed you, and it's mapped up to where we were running, which was right here on the 6th of November. And that's mainly what happens here on these data gaps, is when our data runs out on the original credential, which is what we call it when we pull that, to get an amplification score, because an amplification score will give us some forward-looking indicators here. So we've pulled one right here on this little bit of a adjustment here. I want to see how much of an adjustment we had between there and right here. So we had an adjustment here of about 34% on this downward trend, which is exactly where we pulled the sentiment, and that is 75.61. But here's again another scenario, an amp score slightly above sentiment. So what that tells me is we are entering another little run for MATIC. So we'll probably see a little bit of run here through the end of the month. We could see a big spike. Again, a little bit of concern, but not heavy, of what we're seeing, at least on sentiment and application, is down here in these troughs where you kind of see this sideways action. That's the only thing I would say is a little concerning for me on MATIC. But anyway, our high is pointing in here at about what looks to be around 250, and our low towards looks like middle of December, somewhere around the $2.10, $2.18 or so. So up again. If we were to measure that and take a look at from where we pulled that, if we go all the way up here to the top, we see, and I can't do that, let me move this down a little bit so we can get a better view of this for you guys and just take a quick look of where that will run. That's going to run you up around 76% on the upside. So that's what we're looking at. Again, not investment advice, but it's how we look at how these tokens are going. So again, another one that I like in the short term, but also like in the long term. The next one is Fantom, and Fantom is another project that we have probably underreported on and not given it its due as much as we should have. And Fantom is a little bit more volatile, but I also think it has the ability to do some interesting things. And if you look at where this one has come from, and I'll just go back here and pull when we were back here in October, sentiment holding a 74 and a 74.61, slightly flip, but I almost, when it's that close, I'm very cautious as to how I want to move on it. And it did get a little bit of a rise, but it also went a little bit more sideways before it took that rise. And in that scoring, we went from right there to our top, which was, well, that was a pretty nice move at 163%. So that was over a period of time, though, that was right almost a month range in that. So that's a good example of that one. We pulled another sentiment analysis right here at looks like November 4th. And this one is, again, 74.55 and a 74.63. Also kind of holding just in the sideways action. And we saw a little bit of that dip and then a little bit more of a rise, which is what we're seeing right now with Fantom holding at 251. So still big buy for me. It is one of those that I think I would still look at for acquisition, even though I'm always looking for a dip because, and I love it when Bitcoin goes down because it brings the alts with it and it opens up those opportunities, and you don't get those that often on some of these good projects. Solana, this one has really been active, of course, and we all know why, but it has been moving. We saw this move back here in October. Nice little move here. We pulled a sentiment tool here on what looks to be November 18th, and it went a little sideways on us. And then our last one was right here on November 24th that we just pulled, 75.16 and a 74.83. So what that's telling me right there is that we're going to see some sideways action on Solana. Now, could we see a bump? Sure, we could. These are the kind of things that are very tricky with Solana. Solana is one that has been kind of up and down, a little choppy, but it has been over time trending upwards. And that's kind of the thing that we look at on all these projects. So let me jump over here to the altcoin projects, as I want to kind of show you guys a little bit more on this. So as I said, on our CPI, our crypto power index, we'll pull these kind of scenarios together. You guys probably see this on our tool set inside of the diamond circle, and you probably recognize these little graphics right here, but essentially this is our long-term CPI score for Fantom, Polygon, and Solana. This is a 60-day ranking average for Fantom at 68.59 on sentiment and a 68.55 on AMP, so just slightly under our CPI score at 8.1. And what 8.1 means, this is very active. It's a buy and monitor when we're in the range, and you can't really see that. I don't know if I can zoom. Yeah, I can. I can zoom up on that. You can kind of see how that works. 8.1, which is a very active buy and monitor. And then if you get a score above a 9, that's more of a buy for long term. Now, AVAX was and is my fourth horseman here, but I wanted to keep it to 3, and I'll explain why in a minute because we're going to show you some more charts. Polygon 71.29, and we've got it 72.56 on AMP, which is why we have Polygon really as kind of our #1 position. Is the amplification has been averaging above what sentiment has been doing, so that's a good one at 8.6. And then Solana 75.92 and a 73.11 on amplification. So that worries me just a little bit on Solana that we could see it stall a little here, but I'm still very bullish on Solana. So 8.5 on that score, again, on how those are going. Let's take a look at some of the other projects in the space because there are some sleepers in here that I wanted to bring up to you guys. And again, this is our 60-day sentiment. ETH is the one that I'm most disappointed in it's stalling in under the 5,000, but even though I do think ETH will continue to see some movement. The big concern I have right here is amplification is very low on ETH, though sentiment is holding. What that tells me is that we're not seeing a lot of new players outside of retail really amping up the idea of buying ETH and holding ETH, and I think gas fees have just really kind of put a squash on ETH in a big way, and we've got to see if ETH can kind of break through this. I think a lot of this is pending on how the 2.0 upgrade is going to go, and we'll see how that rolls out. But you can kind of see here, that's the red circle. Solana right there, 75.92. I'm not alarmed at the 73.11. MATIC is the one that is the yellow circle. I like that one a lot because obviously it's outperforming at 72.56 right now. And then you go into, of course, Fantom right here, holding on nicely. I like DOT, not a bad one either. And then Avalanche, this one startled me for a minute. And the only reason was because we did see the correction, which we anticipated. And if you were on Diamond Circle, you saw our chart. You probably saw what our fractal was, which was really taking it out to around 140, 150, and that's where it landed before we saw the retracement occur with AVAX. It coming down to 74.35 after having good amplification for quite some time is a little concerning to me, but at the same time, it's definitely one to watch. Another new entry, not one that I would say is in my top 3, but definitely overperforming right now, is Near Protocol. Near Protocol holding in on our amplification score at 7206, which is 2 points above where their sentiment score, where that project's sentiment score is holding. That's another one that I think we need to watch very closely. We're probably going to do a Near Protocol breakdown on this just because of this score alone. And then Helium, which we have had and identified way early on our show months and months ago with their CEO, and we identified this as a project that was one that we really liked what they were doing as a project in general, the tokenomics, the whole aspect of the technology behind what Helium is trying to do, which is basically a Wi-Fi mesh network that is the way that you're mining tokens is through use of the Wi-Fi itself. It's not a physical mining. So it's got a real world use case. It's got a token that can be mined, and it's designed to build out basically internet for a lot of areas that either one have weak signals for traditional radio towers and be able to do true Wi-Fi in areas. So you're going to see a lot of that coming forward. I'm not sure that Helium might not be a sleeper in the crowd here, and they've had a big run up just over a period of time. And I'll pull up CoinMarketCap just to show you guys. But this one is holding at 72.43 and a 71.06. So again, a good score there, and I like it. Let me go over to CoinMarketCap just so I can get a quick view of that one and see what H&T is doing, just to give you guys a little bit of an understanding there. I'll turn the dark on so it's not so bright there for you guys. Okay, so you can kind of see Helium here running at 42.67. We'll go to their 1 year. And we actually identified this project back in, I believe it was around it was in June. Yeah, so right around June. So trading at about $12. Had a good run up here over this past month and a little bit of adjustment, but it seems to have developed a new plateau here for the project itself. A lot of stuff happening with that. We're hoping to get the Helium founder back on the show because we want to talk about a lot of what they're doing. So we do have him scheduled to be here on the show soon, so make sure and stay tuned for all that. Let's get into the details today on some of the questions that are coming in, and we'll kind of see how things are going, and hopefully you guys are prepping up for your big Thanksgiving. Probably some big ones here though. All right, so CRO, this is coming from King of Kings, is too good to even now in the green. Is it? Okay, so that's one of the projects that I think is hard to jump in, for me to FOMO in, even though CRO is one of those projects, Crypto.com, is one of those projects I think just because of all the news that Crypto.com has been able to generate. They're one of the best marketers. I'll have to, hands down, one of the best marketers. I mean, you got Matt Damon in there, Only the Brave. It's all that cool stuff. Then you go out and stick your label on the staples. There's a lot there that can really drive awareness around Crypto.com. I think we're going to see a lot of onboard of users, and because of the onboard of users and their whole credit card system, or not credit card, debit card system, that in itself for staking CRO is a big advantage in being able to really kind of move that token. So most likely it's going to stabilize, but I just wonder how that's going to hold over a period of time. All right, here's another one coming in. Max T, how do you deal with the emotional stress when making a mistake? I pulled funds from Fantom. I know, it feels bad. And went into Sand at 450 for a temp reinvestment. Okay. Hours before, okay, so it happens. These things happen, guys. It is hard, and timing is everything in the market for these things, and it is a hard scenario when you see one of the beloved tokens that maybe you've hung with for so long, and then you finally gave up on them. And I feel like probably Cardano holders are that way right now. If you look at them for what the Cardanians are really kind of dealing with right now, there may be some people selling out of Cardano in that, and who knows what's going to happen with Cardano. But Fantom, I feel like, is one of those long-term plays. Can't really fix the past. You got to look forward to the future. Sometimes you have to re-enter on those, and just hopefully you can take a less of an elevator ride and going to the next level. All right, let's go continue on here. Paul, top three, would you say, from the top three, would you say Polygon is the best one performing long-term? Solana, Polygon. Long-term, maybe Polygon because of gaming, even though Solana's got a whole new entry of, listen, Solana comes out of beta. We'll paint a picture. Solana comes out of beta and they roll out a much more healthy ecosystem for the wallet, the Fantom wallet, which if you guys have not done anything on the Fantom wallet, go get it and try it out. Play with that. Learn how to buy and get into that ecosystem through the Fantom wallet. It is basically the MetaMask for Solana. So to answer your question, I would say Solana is the long-term play. But MATIC is just right there on it. You can't go wrong. I don't think you can go wrong. I mean, I don't say. I'm going to go wrong. All right, so we've got One Titans, Block, Gala, Mana, Sand, Unstoppable Domain, etc., built on Polygon. You are right, my man. This is see, you're starting to get into the game here. You're understanding how this is all playing out, aren't you? See, now you're reading between the lines and you're seeing the secret sauce here. And you guys are figuring, you don't need me anymore. I can just go. I can go take a beer and drink some. What is that beer we're drinking now? And get into it. But you're right. That's another reason that Polygon is going to be popping in a long term, especially in the gaming side, because I think Polygon. Don't forget, go check the Polygon NFT Studios lead was on our show just a couple of weeks ago. He dropped some gems in there. Go check that video out. You're going to like it. Here's James Wolfgang. If I'm a beginner with $2,000, how much should I invest in high risk coins? Is there a minimum sum? All right, so James, it's not advanced. I'm not giving you financial advice. That's one thing I don't do. I'll tell you the way I would do it if I was playing my hands. My hands are different than yours, but I look at it in the same way with even my own friends, family members, etc. Is I say, let's just look at your portfolio and remember, high risk is, in my opinion, is still a 20% of my portfolio, high risk. And these are games that I know, or projects I know are going to potentially lose, and there will be one or two winners. The one or two winners, though, are most likely going to make up for everything. The key here with a high risk portfolio is to not get too centralized. You've got to spread it out into projects you like, whether you're in the gaming side, whether it's in layer ones that you think are going to pop, whether it's in let's go down the DeFi route. Maybe you like the finance side, whatever it might be that you feel passionate about because you like reading and researching, because that's one of the things you'll need to start doing. Just put it on your checklist. So I would say 20% high risk, 80% is going to start moving into more standardized projects. Now, you've got a lot of people out there playing the high risk game right now because of the movement in the metaverse and gaming space. Kudos to you guys, you're killing it, but it does require pretty much no sleep. That's kind of the trick to the trade. No sleep, constant research, and constant data analysis, smart contract analysis. If you're looking at the BSC projects, there's a lot to it there. We're going to get into that too more in the show to teach you guys how to understand when a project is a little rocky. Gabriella, how about Rose? Listen, that was one that we wish that we had given that one to you guys. It's been on our watch list for a while. We just have so many projects coming at us to really analyze and what we like, but it's a good one. It is a definite good project. So don't shy away from Rose. All right. And this one is, for those who do not have patience, how long should the average turnover be? I think I understand this question of maybe how long you should hold something before you sell it, I think. If you are a trader, then you need to get good at analytical tools. Whether you're using something like a market cipher, if you trade like that, I would suggest following someone like a Crypto Face, who, if you like that kind of trading, and really understanding that. The other thing you've got to do is get the right tools, whether it's Phoenix or Bybit or any of those kind of tools that you can really do good stop loss, strategies, really understanding the candles. It's a lot more work versus the research for me. That's just the route I take. I use Market Cipher, but it's not necessarily the only thing. So I think you just have to look at that. All right, what do you think of Illuvium? We've done a big video on Illuvium. We like that project. The challenge is, I think, as we start to see ETH and Illuvium do this dance, Illuvium will continue to do very well. Lots of good partnerships with Illuvium continue to be, I would still put them in the top 10 games out there, or top 10 gaming aspects of that area. Let's go. There's a lot of questions here. Some of these are going, how will ETH 2.0 affect MATIC and Solana? Listen, Bobby, that is the question. That's $1 million question, maybe $100 million or $1 billion question, because ETH 2.0, because of the ecosystem that is there, if we don't get enough of people departing from, which I see a lot, right now, as we see many people going into the Binance Smart Chain, doing a lot more tokens over there as opposed to paying the gas fees. If you don't lose too much of that ecosystem and the developers, then ETH is going to be right there in the mix of things with 2.0 to defend against a lot of these really good projects like AVAX, like Algorand, like Solana, and of course, like MATIC. All right, so let's continue our CRO AMP, and here comes Gala. You are right, Paul. There is a lot of movement there. AMP was really a surprise to me, even though we've had their founder on early, and it was one of the projects we identified early summer as maybe a late bloomer, and it in fact did. But I do like that one as well. Price prediction for this bull run, I'm assuming you're thinking about Bitcoin. I still hold on my 100K. The problem that's happening with that is that we are seeing some elasticity in this run. I think we are breaking, and I think this was caused by Metaverse. And hear me out on this. Metaverse was dropped in the end of October. Think about timing here. Metaverse gets dropped in end of October, and boom, everything starts blowing up, and it just starts dropping. If you are, you're talking about MATIC. Okay, sorry. Let's stay on Bitcoin for a minute, and then we'll talk about MATIC. But with Bitcoin, I feel like it's just elongated the process out for what this bull run might look at. If we go back to MATIC in this bull run, and we look at where they are right now, this is our short term at 250. This could easily do a 2x to 3x from here. So it's a good solid bet. It's not going to be one of those juicy 5x projects. It's not going to be a 10x project. I do believe this is a 2 to 3x project that gets out there. Now, granted, if MATIC does something absolutely stellar in the gaming side or in the metaverse side, all bets are off. Because at that point, MATIC will start to move in some new circles to really drive it up. So that could be a big one as well. Aren't all these tokens really high up? Look, they don't have a lot of room to upside. I don't know about that. So there are many people that I follow and listen to that talk about Sol, Fantom, MATIC, and still look at these on 2 and 3x positions from where they are today. Now, granted, remember, this is the conservative bull run and bear cycle holders. These are the things you want to try to cycle in, out, take a little profit, hold your bag, and run through a bear cycle, and that's it. Just let them hold because they are long-term plays on some of the long-term challenges that blockchain solves. And that's the thing that you have to be looking at, because remember, between bull runs, you get a lot of the market that just implodes, obviously Bitcoin. The big question, and a lot of experts we talk to still believe we are entering into a very different bear cycle, meaning metaverse gaming, all of the things we'll see in the DAOs and what decentralized autonomous organizations will be doing next year. But not only that, kind of the evolution of where altcoins will be going in terms of the projects, because they'll be so mature and they'll start solving real problems. So big one on there. All right, so we're going to try to, a lot of coming in on UFO. We probably should do a video on that one to at least do a game breakdown on it, to take a look at it. So we'll definitely go there. Do you think if metaverse gaming calms down, the money will flow back into bigger coins, or do you think the rise is mainly new to new people in the market will continue? That is a really good question, Matt, because you are right. There's a lot of money from crypto credibles, people that understand the crypto market, that is moving into the metaverse. And that's more of the degen population willing to risk it a little bit more. So you have a lot of that fun going in. But the new people coming into the space right now will drive Bitcoin up, will drive ETH up, and will drive these core altcoins up, because they will be looking for the MATICs, the Polygons, the dots, etc. And that's going to help the market kind of move to that next level. So just be very careful to not don't get yourself in a pinch of getting out of some of these core projects, because I believe these core projects should be at least 50% of your portfolio, if not greater. For me, that's what they are. So anyway, super chat coming in, analysis sentiment on Gala, looking to add more. We will definitely get you one on that. We just had Gala's on. If you guys have not seen that video, we just dropped it, I think, today, and that was a really good video with Gala. You need to watch it, because listen to what Jason is saying in that interview, because there is a lot of unspoken words that are going to position you in Gala Games in a very interesting way. And they have this thing called Galaverse coming. Ooh, watch out. There's something happening here. I don't know what it is. I can't say, but there's something getting ready to happen, I think, with Gala Games. Anyway, guys, you guys have a good Thanksgiving. This is our last live stream for the week, but we are going to be dropping videos throughout the week, some really good gems that I think you're going to like. And then, of course, we'll get back at it the beginning. If anything crazy happens, watch me on Twitter, because I'll try to keep as much of that up as I can. I may even work through the weekends and drop a few analysis onto the Diamond Circle to pop up some of those. I'll let you guys know if that happens. It'll be up on Twitter. I'll put these charts up there on Twitter as well, some of the most recent rankings. So you got all that stuff, but follow me on Twitter. It's just @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.